Hello and welcome everyone. I welcome each one of you for this very special edition of your edition. And today's topic of discussion is case writing and publishing. And to discuss with us this very important topic for every academician, we have with us the Associate Professor at Asian Institute of Management, Manila, all the way from Philippines, Dr. Sandeep Puri. He has already joined us, and it is our honor and privilege to have him here today with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much on behalf of MIT World Peace University for joining us today for this very important and I would say at times tough topic. I would like to quickly give you a small insight that how exactly this webinar is going to go. First, I would like to take the privilege to introduce you to all of you, after which I would give the entire control to you and request you to address the entire gathering. At the end, once you're done with your address, we are going to take questions and answers, approximately around 30 minutes. And after which, I am absolutely happy to share with you that our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, has already joined this webinar, respected Dr. M.T. Rao, sir. And after our questions and answers are done, I'm going to request him to give the concluding remarks, and after which this webinar would come to a conclusion. My friends, all the participants, I would like to share with you that this webinar today, as it was published earlier, that it will be happening from 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. I would like to share with you that looking at the importance of the topic and the length at which we'll have to discuss it, the time is extended by almost 45 minutes, so we can go approximately 2 hours, little less than 2 hours. So this is how this session is organized today. And now, let me take the privilege to introduce Dr. Sandeep Puri to all of you. With more than 26 years of work experience in industry and teaching, Dr. Sandeep Puri specializes in sales and marketing. Currently, he is working as an associate professor, marketing at Asian Institute of Management, Philippines. Before this, he has worked at IMT Ghaziabad, Trident, and Novartis. He has significant publications to his credit, with 2 publications in Harvard Business Review. He has around 75 case studies publications with Ivy Publishing, WDI Publishing, University of Michigan, and IMD. His papers are published in international journals, magazines, and newspapers. His book on sales and distribution management, co-authored with Still, Cundiff, and Govoni, is published with Pearson. Also, he has 10 edited books to his credit. He is a visiting faculty at many prestigious business schools like SP Jain in Singapore, in Austria, Varna University of Management in Bulgaria, IMT Dubai, IMT Nagpur, Thapar University, Great Lakes, and IFIM in India. He has also conducted MDPs for organizations like Cricket Bankizar, Times of India, Apollo Tyres, and Domino's. Sir, it is really our privilege and honor to have you here today with us. Once again, thank you very much for joining us here today. And now, without taking any further time, I would like to hand over the entire control to you, sir. Over to you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Gautam. Thanks for your kind words and a nice introduction. I would also like to say thanks to Rajiv Thakur sir, who invited me to be a part of this webinar. He was my teacher during my MBA days. So thanks a lot. So the agenda for today's webinar is that I will start with my journey of case writing, and then what can be a good case study, and then we'll get into writing and publishing case studies, and finally, as Gautam said, I'll take questions for any doubts which you have regarding case publications. Right, so Gautam just mentioned that I'm having around 75 cases. Yes, so out of 75, 64 cases are listed with Harvard Business Publishing as of now, including 2 cases with Harvard Business Review. So you can say that in the last 8 years, I've been, I started my journey in 2012 when one of my student, that's why, whenever I post anything on Facebook, I tag my wife and that student of mine who is now at a very senior position in Cipla. He's a student who, told me that, sir, you tell good stories in the class. So why don't you start writing the case studies? So that's how my case study journey started with Parasan is the name of my student, right around 8 years back. Right, this is my last publication with Harvard Business Review, September, October 2019, and it was about ethics in sales management. Just a second, I need to log in. Okay, so what for me is a good case study? I think a good case study for me is something which can enable students to put themselves in the shoes of the decision maker, which is a protagonist of the case. Right? So we can use a good case study to test students' understanding of the theory or how they can connect theory with the application and how they can develop practical insights or wisdom from a case study. A case study should tell an engaging story. In case it's possible for you guys, the HPR case study is available online. It's free of cost. It is available. You just need to go to Harvard Business Review and you can download that case study. It is having a lot of animation, but it's more about, it's a story which is happening. It stirs emotions that you can take sides. Okay, this is how I'm going to, you basically care for the characters in that case. But more importantly, at the end of the day, it should raise learning issues which are important to the curriculum. So my Harvard case study starts with a story about a protagonist who has been caught sending false reports, but he had been a good sales performer over the years. So now management is having a dilemma whether to fire this person. In addition, he recently became a father, right? So firing him at this point of time when he had just become a father, so he's having a family to look after. In addition, he had been a very good performer, and the company was thinking of promoting that person. So what you're going to do? That brings a good dilemma for writing a case study. So what makes a good case study? I keep on getting requests from some of the authors who want to collaborate with me, but sometimes they give me a case study which is way back in 2012, 2014, and that too in the year 2020. A good case study has to have a contemporary topic. So I will simply say that in case you want to write a case study, don't go beyond 2018. Right? More importantly, I will prefer to write something which is happening in 2019 or 2020. But for finance case studies, I have gone even up to 2018 in writing the case study, 2 years back in that case. A good case study should tackle a relevant and important issue so that students can get an immediate connect with that. Introduce a tension between alternative courses of action. So I just referred my Harvard Business Review case study. Now, in this case study, there are few people who are saying that someone who compromises on ethics should be fired immediately. But there are other people who say that he had been a good performance in the past. He's having a family. He just became a father. So, on the basis of sympathy, or you can say compassionate basis, let's not fire him. Let's give him a warning or something like that. So all these things can run at the same time. You can have a contrast and compare between the different alternatives which are available. A case study should have useful generalizations, right? So I'm writing a case study on Realme television. So we are talking about what are the strategies which are being followed by Samsung in India, or for that matter, by other companies in India. What is the size of the industry and how it's growing? What are the problems of the industry? This is just a useful generalization is there. Data. So the data has to be there to, tackle the whole issue. So in case I'm getting into selected financials of a case study. So when I talk about selected financials of the case study, I'm not going to tell that whether they have the right amount of money to invest for product development or market expansion. That is something which the students has to decide. So my data is there to tackle the case study, but not to help you to solve the problem in that case. But yes, for finance case study, the data can be used to solve the case studies. Case study has to be well structured. I will give an idea about a typical format of the case studies, so which you can refer also in that case. More importantly, it has to be easy to read for the people without grammatical mistakes. I really appreciate, I have written lots of cases with Ivy Publishing. The team there is fantastic, and they really help you to write your case studies. They typically go into minute details. And I'm also lucky that I'm working at Asian Institute of Management. I'm having a very good colleague here, Aline. I can take her name here. She's one of the person who, I simply say that she's a girl with magical eyes. Sometimes, whether it's me or my co-authors, we are unable to spot an error or an omission in the final files. But she's one person who will simply say, comma is missing here, or this has to be, So I'm lucky from that perspective. But you have to make it sure that your case study is free from grammatical errors. But in case you're publishing with Ivy Publishing or IMD Lausanne, you have a good publishing team there. So they really take care of all these things. It doesn't make you should not send a case study with grammatical mistakes, even if they are going to take care of the things. So let's get into the case writing process. As decided earlier, so what we will do, in case you have any question, you can write that question in the chat box. Gautam is going to make a note of all the questions. And once I'm done with the presentation part, then I'll be happy to give answers to all those questions, which we can take in maybe around 30 minutes or 45 minutes. I have tried to make this PPT as small as possible. So this is these are different stages of case writing for me per se. So all my cases, when I write the cases, this is how typically this is the format of my cases when I get into it. So everything has to start with an idea, right? Fortunately, many times the ideas can come from your own students. I've written a case study with University of Michigan, which is about Dove entering into baby care. And I can tell you that we wrote a case study about Dove entering into baby care 3 years before Dove could actually think of coming with the baby care. So I was working at IMT Ghaziabad, so I had 3 fantastic students, and while doing an MM project, they said that why not to work on Dove as a brand entering into baby care. Right? So I found it to be a good idea. So once the project was over, I asked them if we can go ahead. So we did. We wrote the case study. It got published. So, and then all of us, all the co-authors, we always feel good about it, that we thought about something way back in 2014 or 15, which Dove actually did in 2018. So everything has to start with an idea. The idea can come from a newspaper, right, from anywhere. Second thing is going to be the planning. So because in case you get an idea, then that idea has to be supplemented with what I need in the body of the case, what are going to be the possible questions, okay, from where I can get the information. So I typically get all this information, or I ask my co-author to work on different things so that we have the whole information with us before we get into writing the case study. Surely, once we start writing, we keep on improvising our things. But at least at the basic stage, you should have a framework in your mind that this is what this case study should be. These are going to be the questions which are going to be answered with this case study. So all these points has to be decided at the start of case study when you're writing the case study itself. Then once you have done the planning that these are things which I'm going to put into the case study, then yes, you can start writing your case study. So I'll just go into all the things one by one. I just discussed about the idea generation part. So many times I think you can also have the idea generation which can happen through case leads. So there are lots of cases which I have written about. I'm going to discuss one of my case study which is about Amul launching camel milk in India. So it just came from Economic Times. That we were reading Economic Times, and that idea came to our mind that Amul is going to be the first company who is thinking about launching camel milk in India. No other company has so ever launch camel milk in India, and it's having its own problem. It's going to be very costly. It's going to be have a shorter lifespan. So how Amul is going to handle those things? Right. So you can also have idea from online platforms, class discussions. I just discussed that example. Interviews and observations. For example, my HBR case study, it got published while I was talking to one of my classmates, that he told me that this is something which he's facing. He's having insomnia and he's unable to take a call about this person. So I thought that, okay, this can be a good idea. I must tell you that I got my first publication with the Harvard Business Review in 2016, and between my two publications, I got around 22 rejections. So I used to send them the ideas. It used to get rejected because they are very particular about what they're going to publish. And finally, my 23rd idea was liked by them. So now once you have done your idea generation, then try to find as much information as possible from different sources about that. For example, right now I'm writing a case study on Realme, which I just told you that. So we are finding it difficult to get information about a distribution network of LG, but we are still trying to get hold of it, because this is not a case study which is written on from the field research. We are writing this case study on the basis of published sources. So in that, we don't have any permission from the company. And in case you go to internet, there is no information which is available about the distribution structure or the number of distributors of LG products in India at this point of time, in the at least last 4 or 5 years. Published sources has to be, in case it's newspaper, very good, but I'm saying credible websites, because there are lots of people who have come to me with case ideas based on Wikipedia. Lots of information is coming from Wikipedia. Wiki references are not allowed in the publication. Right? You can also get the information from knowledge resource centers. So the other case study can be disguised. My last case study which got published is actually a disguised case study. So in this case, it was not a disguise earlier, but we could not get permission. So what we have to do, the bank was actually a bank in India. So they were facing a problem about 6 loan applicants, but finally we could not get permission from the company, and we changed the name of the bank. We in fact changed the country. Now it is based out of Philippines. We changed the name of the loan applicants. Everything we have done from that perspective. So it's a disguised case study. I think the best case study which I will consider is a case study which is based on field research, because you're taking the information from the company itself, but it's really challenging because you need to have a good contact in the company. It has happened with me in the past that I have written a case study keeping one particular company in mind, but I could not get the permission from the company. Then I had to approach another company which is a competitor, and then that's how I could get my publication. Right? So it can be very frustrating that you have written something. It has happened with me. One of my friends was working in an organization. He changed the company and everything went for a toss. But surely it's a very, very rewarding process also, because once you are involved with it, I just completed a case study on Jollibee in the Philippines. Jollibee is one of the, I will say one of the most respected brand in the Philippines. Jollibee is the only company all over the world which could handle the onslaught from McDonald's. Almost in every country, McDonald's, they may be number 1 in most of the countries. But here in the Philippines, Jollibee is number 1. McDonald's is number 2. So we have just finished a case study on that company. We are still waiting for the consent form to be signed by the company. But yes, it was really a good learning experience. We are also thinking of making some videos. So I hope this is going to be one of the best case study once it gets published. Right. So next phase is going to be the planning of the case study. Right. So in the planning, you can simply select the content area and the case topic. So it can be marketing, can be HR, finance, strategy, general management, communication, operation management, or IT. Right. And then you have to go for the topic. And most of the time, when I'm having co-authors, so we typically see that in case, I think Dr. Bindu Gupta, who is my teacher also, she's also attending the webinar today. So I have written case studies with her where we have used a combination of marketing and HR coming together. That is something good which you can also explore. I think Geeta is also here from MET, and I have written case study with her also, and same thing we have done. So HR and marketing coming together. So these are few cases. My case with Unilever acquiring Horlicks, it's already published with IV, but the new case which I'm writing right now is about strategy. It's about the acquisition of Fitbit by Google. Right? So now once we have keeping that strategy in mind, because my co-author is working with Hindustan Unilever, so we are keeping that thing in mind that it has to be more towards strategy than other topics. So the next thing is going to be writing the case study, and here my suggestions are. So the key steps which you can consider for writing a case study can be collect the case information from different sources, develop a caselet with learning objectives. So I think many of my case studies which I have written, I have typically written a case study with less number of pages, maybe a caselet, right? And I typically try to write my teaching note and a case study at the same time so that I know what information is required to answer those questions, and I can put that information in the case study itself, right? So it's always better that you do this simultaneously. Now, how to write and structure a case study? So first of all these publishing houses, they want you to write the case study in past tense. So even if it's a strategy of the company, it has to be mentioned in the past tense, right? Second thing is identify and establish an issue problem which is you're going to use to teach or explore a concept or a theory. So many times, for example, some of the case studies which I have written, so we're talking about market expansion. You can talk about maybe the VRIO model, or you can talk about ANSWER matrix or something like that. You're bringing something together. In the Amul case study, which I'm going to talk to you in the next few slides, we have discussed about even brand positioning. We have discussed about the theoretical framework for bullseye positioning. So you can build something that in the case study from that perspective. Right? So opening paragraph. It is just like that AIDA concept of marketing attention. So your opening paragraph has to be a good paragraph to get attention of the viewer. So in this paragraph, you should talk about who is the main protagonist and who is going to be the main decision maker. Many times they are the same person. What is the nature of issue or problem faced by the company? When did the case take place? So you have to specify the date in the paragraph. So I'll show you an example in the next slide. Where did the case take place? What organization? And why did this particular issue arise? And what are the other corresponding things? So I'm just showing you about Amul Dairy Milk case study. This is one of my most popular case study on Harvard Business Publishing. That's why I selected this particular case study. So you can just have a look at the slide itself. So in the first line, I'm talking about in March 2015, right? And then I'm talking about the company. Then I'm saying that the market leader in the Indian dairy milk market, they plan to launch camel milk in India. So it means I am setting the tone of the case study in the first line itself. This case study I wrote with few of my favorite students from IMT Ghaziabad. So in the very first line, time is mentioned, company is mentioned, and even the issue is mentioned. Right? And then we were talking about the other things that Amul milk is considered as, the camel milk is being considered as a cure for diabetes, right? And in 2006, the Food and Agriculture Organization, they acknowledge that it's a good thing. And then coming back to, I will say, the last part of this paragraph, the third paragraph. Right? So On one hand, the approval is still pending in India. And then because this case study is written on published sources, that's why we have used the word industry observers wondered whether camel milk could be Amul's next big opportunity. Right? So should Amul launch the sale of camel milk in India? First of all, in the answer, it has to be pros and cons. Right? In the event that camel milk had therapeutic benefits, should Amul introduce the product exclusive to patients with autism or type 1 diabetes, or given the benefits of camel milk over cow milk, you can introduce to general public, which are, I'm talking about health conscious customers. This is the first introductory part of this case study. So you can see here, everything is covered in these three paragraphs. So in case a student who is reading this case study, in these paragraphs, they can see, okay, what is going to be the case study is all about. If you have any questions, just make a note of it. I will answer once we are done with the presentation part. This is my another case study which got published quite recently. Again, a favorite case study for me because my daughter is also a co-author in this case study. Okay, so this is all about Sarva Pharmaceuticals. They're doing very well in the Philippines and Cambodia. Now they're thinking about going to Myanmar and Vietnam. Right. So in the very first line, you can see in August 2019, Jayaprakash Chaubey, who is he, the managing director of Sarva Pharmaceuticals, right, sat in his office, reflecting on considerable progress of his company in the Philippines and Cambodia. He was considering international expansion. So we're directly coming in the next line where they want to expand Myanmar and Vietnam. And then we are simply giving some idea about company's success information that last year it closed at a sale of 705 million, right? Which is with a growth of around 25% over the previous year. And then the company was having a target of 900 million with a growth of 28% for the year 2019. So this is the information which we have already given. Company is profitable, it's growing well, and surely they have finances to go for an international expansion. In the second line, second paragraph, we are talking about, that Hemlata Chaubey, who is a partner, they're coming together and they're thinking about that. Let's go to Vietnam, let's go to Myanmar by December 2019 and Vietnam by the end of 2020. Right? So then they are having some doubts, okay, what could be the possible pitfalls when they encounter, okay, what could be the best way to enter the market? So it means you can explore the different strategies of international marketing. In this case, was Sarva Pharma's product range suitable for the Myanmar market, or they have to launch new products? What risks and cross-culture marketing issues that can be faced by the company? And then we're also talking about what management staffing approaches. So in case you remember, we have ethnographic, polycentric, geocentric, so everything is coming into this case study. So that is something which can be there. You've written the first part, but I will simply suggest that you can surely write the first part of the case study after working on the other parts. The next part is going to be the body of the case, which is going to be having more about information. So you can, it's better to go for a chronological order with how the company is doing right now, and then you can go backwards how it did in the earlier day. So there has to be organization background, industry, customers, and details of the specific issues faced by the company. It's very important that you stay neutral. So it's better to give both sides of the story. Okay, so don't make it that, okay, it's only one-sided things. So the students can think about different alternatives which are available. Now, what is there? So I've already shown you the introductory paragraph of Amul milk case study. So this is what was the body of the case study. So we talked about Indian milk industry, how is it growing, right? And then we talked about the company itself, and then we talked about the marketing mix at Gujarat Milk Marketing Federation Limited. Then we talked about major competitors like Mother Dairy and other ones. Then we also talked about consumer value. consumer evolution, that how people are moving towards health conscious, and then how companies are launching new things in that case. And finally, we are coming to the camel milk. What are the benefits of camel milk in the different parts of the world, and how it is being marketed by other companies in different parts of the world. Now you can see at the photo itself that ultimately Amul has positioned it as camel milk is a source of natural insulin like protein, right? So indirectly they are talking about type 1 diabetes. Second case study which I discussed with you was about Sarva Pharmaceuticals. In that case, we divided the whole part of the body of the case study into 3 parts. So we had company background. So we discussed about sales and marketing, product range, pricing strategy, distribution, promotion. These things are going to be very important, because when a company is going into international marketing, there what pricing strategy they are following in other countries. Right? So Sarva Pharma typically is, as of now, they're following a cost leadership as a strategy. They procure the goods from good plants at a reasonable price, and then they compete on the basis of price. That's the strategy. Then what is going to be the distribution structure? What is going to be the promotion? This is a pharmaceutical company. So there are many companies in Myanmar, in the Philippines. They don't do any marketing per se. They simply sell their medicines to the retailers or the chemists, and they further go to the other level. Then this case study is talking about Myanmar as a business destination. So we're talking about the general economy of the Myanmar. And then we are coming down to the pharmaceutical industry in the Myanmar. And what are typical operating business models are followed in Myanmar. So they are companies like Dr. Reddy's or Sun Pharma, they are having a different business model. Then they are small export houses, they have a different business model and something like that. And then this case study is discussing challenging in the Myanmar pharmaceutical industry. And then finally, we are going to the concluding paragraph. So a concluding paragraph, typically, it's a short synthesis of the case. Again, you are trying to reiterate what the main issues are, right? I typically stress that you link your last paragraph or the last part of the case study with the introductory part of the case study. But here, the most important thing is don't just copy it. I've reviewed few cases where, what people have done, whatever they have written in the first 2 paragraphs, they simply copied the same thing in the last paragraph. That's not the way. So it has to be, yes, it's conveying almost a similar thing, but the wording and everything has to be rearranged or rephrased from that perspective. So this is what you can read it. This is what the Amul case is all about. So we're talking that Amul is the market leader in the Indian milk industry, right? They have pioneered several progressive initiatives, right? So then we're talking about camel milk, which is an unexplored segment in the India, right? And then we're talking the company need to assess capabilities and competitors, right? So now the question which we are asking in the case study: should Amul enter the promising camel milk segment to take advantage of the evolving consumer preferences? Okay, and then should Amul introduce the product exclusive for autistic or diabetic patients, or should the company promote camel milk as a healthy variant for fitness and health conscious customers? And then how would Amul leverage its substantial brand presence, and what could be the possible challenges the company can face in the launch and also the distribution of camel milk, because it's having a short shelf life, right? So this is how the case study looks like for Amul. This is the conclusion of the Sarva Pharma case study. So now what's happening here? So in the very first paragraph, we talked about the population of the country. We talked about that the government has increased the budget and those type of things. Right? Is highly attractive. So we're talking about those things. And then even the owner has I don't know, Dr. Meghna is saying that requesting to annotate the shared content. I have to decline it because the control will go from my hand in that case. Okay, then Chobe he has seen that even the government and there's an increased foreign investment in Myanmar, right? So those things are there, and finally, they're coming down to in the last paragraph. They're talking about skeptical about the challenges he would face, right? So all these things are coming. So you can say, what is the strategy of the company? Uh, Although the company is having a wide range of products, he is unsure about the products which are suitable for the Myanmar market. Then he's looking into the possible risk and cross-culture marketing issues. Right? So all the things are being said here. He will decide on the right strategy to ride the growth wave in Myanmar and Vietnam. This is how we are concluding this particular case study. Right? Exhibits, they are again very important, but just to tell you a few things here, please don't copy the images or graphs from somewhere else. In case you are taking a graph from somewhere else, you have to make it from your side. It should not be quite similar to the graph which is available on a particular website. So maybe you can have a pie chart or a bar chart, or you can make some changes into it. It has to be cited properly, right? So everything is there, but no images are allowed. Yes, you can surely use images in case, for example, I have done a case study on a restaurant. So I was having permission from the company. So we have used images about the interior, about the exterior, about the menu card, and those type of things, which you can surely use in the exhibits. Right. So before we go to the next step, I must say that when you're writing case study, please have this thing in the back of your mind that the cases should highlight practical application of theory. It should reflect the ambiguity of the situation. So the intent to be to create a dialogue. It should encourage critical thinking and also lead to research and evaluation of recommendations. So collect information relevant information from your case, organization of public sources wherever it's possible. Ensure you have correct documentation with citations. So the second part of the discussion is going to be the teaching note. Teaching note is as important as the case study itself, but in many cases, my teaching notes are much longer than the case studies. Many of my case studies are just 8 to 9 page case studies, but teaching notes are around 20 pages of the teaching note. So teaching note is going to be a very critical element in that case. And all these publishing houses like IB, IMD, they look at the depth of the analysis. Right? So this is typically what teaching note is going to cover. It will have a case synopsis, target audience, whether MBA, undergraduate, executives, clear learning objectives. And then you have to write the suggested session time. It's going to be a 80-minute class, 75-minute class. Then how much time you're going to spend on each topic in that case. What are going to be the suggested readings? In fact, nowadays, I just forgot to write here. All these publishing houses, they also prefer in case you have some supplementary material like the videos or something like that. Multimedia cases are really in demand because of the online teaching. And then challenging case study discussions. Don't get into the SWOT or Porter's 5 forces. That is something which is done many a times. So the good publishing houses, they're not looking at every case study should have a SWOT analysis or a Porter 5 force analysis. And typically, the last part of the case study, they ask for what actually happened. Okay, so, for example, in this case of Sarva, Myanmar, and these things, because of some issues in the company itself, they postponed their decision to enter into Myanmar and Vietnam by a year. I think now with this thing coming to the picture, this can again be an issue. Right. So in case of finance case studies, you need to have some worksheets. In fact, the last 2 case studies which I submitted, I'm also having a PowerPoint presentation. Right. So in case you submit a case study, so last of my 2 cases which are being published, they have case study, there's a teaching note, we are also having a PowerPoint presentation. It becomes easier for the professors who want to use my. Yes, Gautam. Yes, Gautam.
No, somebody has unmuted from their side. I'm muting them, so you may continue, please.
Right, Gautam. Okay, so what are the other supporting material you have which can be used by the students? You can add those in here. Trial of the case study. This is I'm just waiting for when I can go back to my college and I can see the classroom with students like that. So I'm quite optimistic person. So let's hope the thing will be better soon. So what I do in that case, I think some of my students from my MB class, they are attending this webinar. They have been really a great help to me in writing good case studies. I think Karthik is already one of the students who is already here. I think in one of my case study, he pointed, Prof, you have written this word twice. Okay, so something like that is missing, right? And then because I try the case study in the class, the quality of my teaching note, it really gets improved. I'm lucky to have some very good students. I will say most of the students are very good in the class, so they really come up with some very good suggestions which I missed when I was writing the case study or the teaching note. But then a trial of the case study can help you to enrich your case study and teaching note. So, or you can also try in the workshops wherever it is possible, and then revise the content. So don't get obsessed that whatever you have mentioned is the right thing, right? In fact, last year I was teaching CRM course here in the Philippines. One of my case study, which is also listed as a popular case study on Harvard website, I was having an exhibit of calculations in the teaching note. I made one error because when I was doing the multiplication, I simply multiplied the last column, which was actually a total of few other things, with the dollar price, and I got a different value. And unfortunately, maybe someone who was at a publishing house, they were also looking at the content, the spelling mistakes, the grammar, and other things. So all of us missed that particular part. But when my students were making the presentation, I could see that there is a difference between their calculation and my calculation. So I simply asked them why my calculations are not matching with your calculations. Then I could realize that actually I had to multiply that the dollar into only the first column, but by mistake I multiplied the dollar with the sum of all the columns, and which really made a different thing altogether. And because of that thing, in fact, my inference from that case study was different. But once I did this thing, we have to make the necessary changes. And in that case, I think IB Publishing House is very good. I told them that I'm sorry, there's a mistake in my calculations, and they're very supportive. They made the changes. So now that revised case study is available on Harvard Business Publishing, IB Publishing. So it's better that you make the change whenever possible. If you're lucky enough before the submission, otherwise, even if you get to know about it after the submission, no issues. Reviewing. I said to you that I'm having a very good colleague here. I also take help of the other people who can help to review my case studies, right? So before you submit, check the submission guidelines. So I have case studies published with journals. I have case studies published with other good publishing houses. So a journal will have a different guidelines. For example, I'll simply say, IMD Lausanne, they typically prefer to have references as a footnote. But IB Publishing, nowadays, they prefer to have references as an endnote. Right? So you need to know that if you're submitting to IB, references has to be endnote. If it is IMD, it has to be footnotes. Right? Check for the possible errors, which I'm repeating again and again. Take someone's help for proofreading and copy editing. Many times, when authors submit their case studies, the first reply which they get from the reviewers is that please do proofreading and copy editing. And then I will simply say that it's better to submit your case studies after completing it. There are lots of people who submit their case studies with incomplete references. Only the website is mentioned. There's no, you have to write the name of the author, then the title of the publication, publishing house, date of publication, accessed on, and then the link. But people typically just save their time. So what happens in that case? You have already waited for 2 months for the first review, and the first review is saying that you have incomplete references, there's some grammatical mistakes. So you make all the corrections, and then again you have to wait for another 2 months for the review. So it's better to wait for an extra week, make it sure that you are not having those mistakes, and then submit it in a good manner. In case it's a field research case study, then you have to get the company's consent form signed. And different publishing houses, they have their own consent forms. Now, common mistakes. Lots of people, now you need to have a different style to write the case study, which is quite different from the research papers. I've seen people who are writing, they write case study as a research article. So that's not the case. Grammatical mistakes. I'm saying this thing again and again, right? Taking sides. You have to play a very neutral role in this case. You're not following author's guidelines. Okay, lack of fit. So, for example, I wrote a case study on a business school and its admission and those type of things. I could not get it published at one place. I got it published at another place. But the thing is, yes, I could understand that there's a lack of fit. Many times, case they don't suit to the learning or the teaching objectives which are there. So you are writing a case study which is not having what you're saying in the teaching note is not matching with what you're saying in the case studies. Lack of permission documentation, plagiarism is really a bad thing. So make it sure that you avoid these type of mistakes when you are submitting the case study. Other problem is that in case I am solving the case study, then I need additional information which is not mentioned in the case study. Then again, it's an issue in itself. Or there are people who are writing an answer in the teaching note, but you're saying something in the teaching note that, okay, for example, Real Me is promoted by Shah Rukh Khan or by some other actor, Ayushmann Khurrana, but this is not mentioned in the case study. Right? So I don't think you will want your students to go to Google and find something out in that perspective. Learning objectives. So I'm requesting once again that please simply don't use SWOT that, okay, you have to write 5 questions. So why not to go for SWOT, the company, and then 4 to 5 courses for the analysis things. Right? So this is something which has happened in the past. So nowadays, all these publishing houses are looking at more depth, new topics, and that is there. So teaching note is important. So you have to give sample answers, no analysis. So even if you're saying something, for example, yes, okay, so you are having 4 to 5 courses. Then is it a really in-depth analysis, or you're just saying that there are lots of suppliers, so bargaining of supplier is on a lower side? No, right? So you have to bring the whole perspective that in the aeroplane industry, for example, in the airline industry, so the suppliers are the aeroplane suppliers, Boeing. So Boeing and Airbus may be having a high bargaining power, one line, okay, period. But then there are also other suppliers, the suppliers of food packages, right? The suppliers of even, manpower, the suppliers of other material, stationery, and those type of things. You have to mention all these things in case you're going for a 4 to 5 course analysis, right? So you have to have a very good in-depth analysis, not just a superficial analysis. I must say that I'm really thankful and grateful to my fantastic co-authors. It was really a wonderful experience for me, at least, to work with 99.9% of my case authors, and I'm looking forward for another opportunity to work with them. So what I can say in that case is that, if possible, develop a compatible team, right? So in that case, I think I just talked to you about Bindu Gupta ma'am. I talked about Kitab. I'm also having a fantastic colleague, Rakesh Singh at IMT. So we write case studies, for example. So he brings his B2B perspective. I'm talking about the other sales perspective. So, we know timing of each other. I'm also having another good colleague, Shweta. So I think there are lots of people with whom I have worked. I can take lots of names in this case. I'm really lucky from that perspective, whether it's Sanchita or Bridge. But there are lots of people who can be a part of your journey. Then you have to exploit your individual stance. I'm good in doing this part. He's good in doing the other parts. So you can come together. Okay. So agree and clarify the order of appearance in the start of the case study itself. And who's going to be the lead author for all these things. But I must say one thing to you guys, right? I don't think that the sequence makes any difference. I learned this thing from Professor Ajay Kohli. I respect him a lot, and he is a renowned professor all over the world. So when I wrote 2 case studies with him. So when I wrote the first case study with him, I went to him with a draft, and I was having his name as the first author and my name as the second author, because he's a very senior person. He was very clear, right? He was very clear. He said, Sandeep, you are leading this case study, so you have to be the first author, okay? And I'm going to be the second author. And next time again, because of respect, I could not put his name as the second author. So I went again with his name as the first author and my name as the second author. Simply said first thing to me, next time in case you come back to me with the same sequence, I'm not going to give my name for this case study. So if you want me to work together on this case studies, then one thing is very clear, that you are the first author and the second author. And then he told me once, Sandeep, the most important thing is a good case publication or a good research publication. Where your name is there doesn't make a difference. But surely someone who is taking the lead in writing the case study, he should be the first person to take it forward. Right? I'm writing a case study right now on Realme with Bridge, with whom I have written Amul. So although he was my student, but I'm very clear with him that now you're leading the show, you have to be the first author for this case study. Okay, so distribute your work accordingly, what you're going to do among yourselves, so that there's no overlapping of the thing which is happening. Work on files with track changes on, so that you can understand what are things which are being added by the other people. Now let's come down to the final step. It's going to be the publishing. So typically, you can have 4 possible decisions: accept, minor revision, major revision, and the worst thing can be the rejection of your case study. So I simply say that the request for revision is a good beginning. It means they are considering your case study. They are ready to have a look at it with the required changes. So you are in the publishing cycle. So stay calm and work on the comments. Please keep one thing in mind. The comments are not on you. The comments are maybe on a particular paragraph, something like this. They can be discouraging, but surely not personal. So take it from that perspective on. And it can happen with anyone among us. So thank the editor and set a revision deadline. You can say that, okay, I will submit my case study by 20th of May. And then make it sure that you submit it by that deadline. Unlike the journals who already have a deadline, the publishing houses, they don't give you a deadline. It can also happen that you have a different perspective, but the publishing coordinator can have a different perspective. So in case you can, and you can surely disagree, but tell them why you feel like this. Right? So you can really clarify your doubts and you can go ahead and then meet the deadline. And here also, it's very important that you work under track changes mode, so that the publishing coordinator can see what are the changes which are being made by you. Right. Second thing is, in case of a rejection, it can happen with anyone among us. So don't give up. Some of my cases, they got rejected. So first thing is, yes, You can try to improve and then resubmit. If you're lucky enough, it will get published, right? And if it's not possible, then surely I think you can go to another place. One of the case which I wrote that was not accepted by publication at one place, even after undergoing many rounds of reviews. The final remark was that Sandeep, we do have some cases which are having the same issue, so it's not something new for us. So we are sorry for it. So no issues. In that case, we went to another good publishing house, and we got it published. This is a typical case plan which I follow here at AIM. That's why I mentioned the name. So we typically go for a possible title, who are going to be the case writers, the case lead, right? What is setting, what are the issues or problems faced by them, and who's going to be the protagonist, and then what is going to be the positioning of this case study, right? Or for the course for which I'm going to use this case study, what is going to target audience, learning objectives, right? So we typically have this case plan when we are implementing it or when we are writing it. So this is all from my side. I have tried to cover everything in 1 hour time, which was being given to me. But I must say to you guys that this is the best time to write case studies because unfortunately, the lockdown, we have time with us. And I think this initiative of MIT WPU is a very timely initiative. So take the responsibility, first of all. I must say that I used to travel for 5 hours in a day from Dwarka to Ghaziabad, 2 hours in the morning, 2.5 hours in the morning, 2.5 hours in the evening. But then what I did in that case was I did that thing for 9 years. But I simply started writing the case studies when once I am in the metro, I will open my laptop and I will start working on one of the case studies which I am working. So even now, I think I work almost an hour or 1.5 hours daily on case studies. That's what it's my passion from that perspective, right? So take the responsibility that you're going to write and you're not going to compromise. It's very easy to get your case studies published at lower run places, but I will simply say that target for the A-class publishing houses, right? And then I will simply say read. So what is happening? There are lots of people who come to me with a draft of a case study. But I will request all of you that you, at least in case you're targeting IB publishing, at least read 10 to 12 case studies of IB publishing, so that you can have an idea about the style, about the language which is used in those cases, and then you can develop your cases accordingly. And then please, it's not a good idea that if a case study by someone is published in a restaurant, you also have a new restaurant now, same format, same information. That's not happening nowadays, right? So bring something unique to your case study. And then it's good to attend 1 or 2 workshops. Unfortunately, or I'll say fortunately for me, I never attended any workshop. My journey started with one of my students pushing me to write case studies. And then one of my students, he gave me permission to write a case study on his company. So I'm really lucky as a teacher from that perspective that that 2 of my students, they helped me to start my journey. Right. So the other thing is network. My peer publications happened because of one of my friend. Right. So we were discussing about a issue faced by him, and then it's a history now. But surely he gave me one of my best case study of my life. Students. So I think I have written case studies with students, but I have also written case studies on someone in the family of my student, and I got permission for that case. I have only one case study which is published with ISB IV combination. So it was on the company which is owned by one of my students' father. You can surely try to find a mentor, and I'm repeating once again: sequence doesn't make a difference. Think about a good case publication. Don't think about the sequence. Sequence can kill your collaboration. So this is all from my side. So I hope this webinar is going to help you to write some good case publications. Some I'm open to take questions.
Great. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I'm sure that was fantastic insights we have got for case studies. I think you started right from scratch and you have brought us to the till the end very nicely. I'm sorry, sir. I'll be keeping my camera off because I'm facing serious bandwidth issues. I don't know why I'm facing trouble today. And I would, with your kind permission, I would like to have one more tweak in the sequence because at 4 p.m. Indian Standard Time, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, and Provost, sir, would have to leave this meeting if we are continuing because they have some other meetings scheduled. So, with your kind permission, I would like to break this sequence, and if I may request our beloved Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, if he can say a few words before we actually continue with the questions and answers.
Thank you, God. Sandeep, it was a very talk. Sure, all my faculty members will derive benefit out of it. I look forward to the interactions and see up to here up to 3:55, and then I move over to the next meeting. I look forward to the interactions also. Thanks very much for coming up and then helping our faculty. Thanks very much to help our students as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And thank you very much, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, for being there with us always. If I may request our Provost, Professor Dr. Rajiv Thakur, sir, if he wants to say some few words.
Good afternoon. This is Rajiv Sandeep, and good afternoon to everyone. Sandeep, thank you for your time and accepting to conduct this webinar. And I need not tell much about the session and about you. I must appreciate your humility. And let me tell you and tell everyone attending here that when a teacher goes back to his student to collaborate and seek his guidance to publish a case study, I think Sandeep would know what I am referring to. We are just collaborating on a case study which we just co-authored, and have requested Sandeep to look into that and collaborate how to publish it in a good journal. I think that's something, a big achievement for a teacher. And it's always a very happy and proud feeling to see you publishing and reaching great heights. And I'm sure all of us would be benefiting from your webinar today, and we look forward to more such sessions in future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now I would like to start the sequence of questions. I have huge number of questions, I would say, and let's see how many of them I would actually be able to take. So, sir, with your kind permission, I would like to start taking the first question. And the first question is coming from Mitali Tiwari and asks, certain journals such as Harvard require the case to be taught in the classroom before it is published. In such case, how can we protect our case from being copied since it is not yet published but again taught in class? So people know about it.
Okay, so it's a good question, but I must say that this is something which I feel can happen in India. But in case you go to, I have been at Georgia Tech, where I have attended some seminars happening in Georgia State University. So what I've seen there, so this is something which is not happening here in India as of now, but I can simply give an example. I was attending classes of Professor Ajay Kohli for PhD students. So in his class, the students were coming from 4 different universities. So it's part of like this. The students are coming from Emory, students coming from Georgia State University, students coming from another university at Georgia Tech. It's just like this, that students are coming from 4 different business schools and studying at one particular business school, and then they get credit. So what these universities have done together. So I was there, I have attended some seminars where it's not a really conference. It was simply like this, that a marketing professor is having an idea, he's collaborating with some other professor from other university, and then they're discussing their idea before actually submitting the paper, before actually getting into more details of the paper. So they're discussing that idea openly with everyone, And in that case, I think there's an ethic. So it's very clear that something like this is happening. So this is your idea, so nobody can copy it. Similarly, I think in case I talk about our classes in India, I think once the case is being written by you and you're giving to someone that, okay, we are going to discuss this case study in the class, I don't think anyone can really copy it or anyone should copy it. So at least I never had this problem with any of my case studies.
Right, right. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Next question is coming from Dr. Shilpa Dev, and she asks how to make case discussion more interesting in a class of around 70 students.
Okay, so this case is so question is not about case publishing but case discussions. So I think there are lots of way which you can do. So I think what I do many times, I start our discussions with what is actually the main summary of the case in 2 or 3 lines. Right? Because many times I think students have read the case study, but they get into many different things which are coming together. So, and then I try to involve people. That's typically what I do. That okay, I think it's more about your board management also. That how you're taking the notes of different answers by the students, and then how you're getting in linked with the final objective of the particular question or the case study. So I think it all depends. Yes, I used to have lots of students in my classes at IMT Ghaziabad. So it is difficult, it is challenging, but surely I think as a teacher, because I think it's not possible to have every question that you can ask all the 70 people take their inputs. So you have to be very clear that, okay, see something which is getting repeated. So you can move on to someone else where something new is coming. So that's how you can manage it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that. Next question is coming from Dr. Anjali Sani, who asks, for the undergraduate management students, for example, of BBA program, what, according to you, would be the ideal length of case study?
The ideal length of the case study, I will say that my son has done BBA and he's doing reasonably well. I'm very happy with that. So I think it's not about the students who have a good competency, but typically even for the higher studies, I typically go for a case study which is having 7 to 8 pages of text and then some exhibits. For undergrads also, I think because in case someone has to analyze and they are yet in the learning phase, they are new to the learning phase. So I think they will need more information about the industry and other things. So I think having a case study of around 10 pages with 7 or 8 pages of text, 2 to 3 pages of exhibits, should be a reasonable length of a case study.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I'm absolutely getting all sort of questions here. And I think that is a simple indicator that everyone attending this webinar was deeply engrossed in what you were talking. The next question is coming from Swapnil Pandey and asks, we have heard a CEO in a webinar talking about a company or his company. Can we add that statement in a case study? And if yes, how to write the reference for that?
Surely, in case that webinar is available online, right? You can surely give it as a quote by the person, but it has to be available online.
Okay, so you mean we can quote, definitely quote?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then, okay, next question is coming from a username called me. So there is no name I can quote actually, but the question is, if case is made of secondary data, so what are the legalities involved? Oh, okay. Shraddha Kokane.
Okay, so there is no I think there are case studies which I have published, which are published on the basis of secondary data. The only difficult thing in writing a case study on secondary data, I just finished a case study in Netflix. So we have announced the number of endnotes here are more than 100. Whereas when I write a case study on the basis of information from the company, the number of endnotes are around 20. So in this case, everything has to be cited. So that's a difference. In a published case study,
Right.
on a research, just only 20-25. citations are required, but in case of secondary data, you really need to have everything which you're writing in the case study has to have a citation.
Right, right. Thank you, sir. Next question, I think it was a continuation to her own question, and she asked how to start with having tie-ups with industry and industry people for writing a case.
I think it's a good question. I'm writing a case study with another author in India, and we are getting the information from the HR manager of the company, and she also wants, she has done her MBA and she wants to be the part of the case study. So we are okay with her coming to join us as an author, because ultimately she is helping us to get the complete information. Now, in this case, I think I have mentioned earlier also, it's all about your networking. Right. So I just gave an example that I'm having a co-author, Geeta. So I think Geeta is having very good relationship with her students. So we wrote one of the case study because one of our students' father is the president of a company. So yes, we could get the required details. We could get the permission from the company, and we could. The students can themselves, or the alumni of the college, they can be a great source of writing a case study.
Yeah, so I think the most important part to be noted here is your personal contacts and contacts through students.
Yes.
Yeah. The next question is coming from Srishti Agarwal, and she asks, can't we take only a sector to identify the problems or issues and write its holistic view rather than taking one particular company? So what is a good idea? Going for a company or a sector?
Typically, Shruti, a case study has to have a company. You know, we discuss about protagonist and everything like that. So you have to go with something like that. You can have a case study coming up, so your thing can be a Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, but at the end of the day, you have to take a company which is implementing it, or which is helping the implementation of it from the social enterprise perspective and how it is taking it forward.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. The next question is coming from Poonam, and she is having two questions back to back. So I'll read both. How do you reach the company for a case study? And what's in it for the company? And the second question is, how do you negotiate confidentiality when getting the financials or some secretive data of the company?
So I think I'll give an example of one of my case study, which is written on Maha Research Labs. It is again owned by one of my friends. So my friend was thinking of entering into the Turkey market. So just when he was thinking about that market, he asked me to do some consulting for him. So I wrote a case study again with a co-author from Georgia State University. She's a Russian professor. So we wrote a case study on this company. The case study got published. The company was yet to start thinking about Turkish opportunity. But once the case study was published on and got listed on Harvard, he got inquiries from Turkey itself that we are thinking of, having a pharmaceutical supplier from India. So can you help us? So I think in this case, it's a win-win situation. The other thing is, many times I've written case studies on Ajanta packaging, again owned by one of my students. The case studies are listed on Harvard Business Publishing, and also they're on the website of Harvard Business Review. I think it's a mutual benefit that the company's name is mentioned on at such a big platform. So it's a win-win situation. In this case, I think I have written what is happening in the company. I have not written anything wrong about the company. So I was very clear that this is a company, this is its growth trajectory, these are the issues faced by the company, and that's all. So no negative talk about the company, nothing like that is there. It's just about a decision making, how they can move forward. So I think in this case, it's a win-win. It's a win-win situation. I feel that like that.
Yeah, but probably I think, as you rightly said, with these kind of references, you'll have to come forward and you can say talk to the company with that comfort that yes, these kind of opportunities and advantages you might also get.
Yes, I think the company is going to sign the case study only once they look at the final draft of the case study, right? So you can tell them what you're planning to write. A company should not have a problem if it is something which is not special or secret, which company doesn't want to disclose. I think most of the companies are okay with that thing.
So there would be a little involvement of art of convincing.
Yes, it has to be there.
Okay, so next question is coming from Professor Abhijit Chauhan and asks, if a case study is to be written for a class of undergraduate students, how it is different from the case study written for a publication?
I think all the case studies which we publish, they do have, for example, in case you go to the IB publishing website, when you are submitting the case study, they have two, three things, whether your case study is for undergrad or for MBA or for executive MBA or for workshop and seminar. These are options which are available there. And I think some of the case studies which we write for MBA classes per se, they are also being used by professors for BBA courses. The thing is, the professor may not go into too much depth of the analysis, right? So they can introduce, so for example, you have written 5 questions for a particular case study, but a professor can use your case study only to do the SWOT analysis or only to introduce some particular framework which he or she is having in the mind.
Okay. Right. Next question is coming from Professor Sumita Joshi, and she asks, how to make case study teaching interesting for the UG students, and also request you to throw light on how to write a caselet, a very, very small case, I would say, caselet.
Okay, so
So just to say, we are unable to hear you. Please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, I will. I will. Uh, the question is how to make case study teaching interesting for UG students, and also request you to throw some light on how to write a caselet.
Okay, right. So I think the most important thing is the story part itself. So in case you want to make it interesting, so there has to be that, that wow thing in the case study itself. That okay, it can be on a brand which is quite relevant for the undergraduate students, a brand which is well known to them, so they can correlate with it very easily. And for a caselet, I think I've written many caselets. So in that case, there's no need for any permission because you're not submitting caselet anywhere. Many case studies which I have written, I just, in the earlier stages, I developed a small caselet. I discussed that thing in the class, and then I got into the other nitty-gritties. I can just give you an example of my recent case publication. So this was used as a caselet at IMT Ghaziabad in the earlier days. So what I've written in that case, that is a bank manager, he's having simple one-page caselet. The bank manager, he's having only 24 million. So he's having applications for loan for the amount of 24 million, but he's having only 18 million to disburse to the loan applicants. And he's having 6 applicants. So I've written a small description of 6 applicants. One is a person with disability. One is a student who got admission at IIM Ahmedabad. Third is a businessman who want to expand his business, and an old customer of the business of the bank. So I've given 6 things here, and now the thing is how you can say no to a person with disability. You have a lack of 6 million, so you have to say no to someone, or you have to reduce the amount of the loan for someone. So this is just a one-page caselet which I developed, and some of my friends have used this particular caselet for promotion in their companies. I discussed it with them. They said it seems to be a good caselet, and they have used that thing for promotion in their company just by showing this small caselet. 24 million is the loan applicants amount. Bank is having only 18 million, 6 applicants. Then I've added all these things. One is war widow, wanting to start a training institute for the poor girls. So I just gave different emotional perspective also here. So how you're going to say no to a war widow who wants to do something for the poor. I think that's how you can make a caselet interesting as well as small one. I also had a which was written on forecasting. So I just gave an idea about the last 5 years of sales figures, right? And then I discuss about time series analysis, what are the other possible regression or other things I can use in the forecast. So you can develop that thing accordingly.
Yeah, right. Thank you, sir. Just a second. Yeah. The next question is from Karthik. And Karthik asks, do we always need the permission from a company to write a case about them?
Karthik, it depends upon if in case, for example, I'm writing case study on Realme, we are writing this case study on the basis of the information which is available on different online platforms. So there's no need for us to take the permission. But in case I'm writing something for which I don't have any data available on the online platforms, then in case surely I have to go to the company and ask for the permission. Or in case you're taking the name of someone in the company, then so you're talking about the CEO of this particular company is saying like this. So in case it's not documented, then surely you have to take the permission.
Right, sir. Thank you very much. The next question is coming from Vinita Ahire, and she asks how to approach companies for writing a finance case.
Okay, I think writing a finance case is having some other perspectives also. I've got 2 publications on finance, so it was a good learning experience. I had a very good professor here at my college at AIM. So what we have done here, so we've written one case study on Shakey's, which is a renowned pizza company here in Southeast Asia. So we have written the case study about the IPO of the company. So what in that case, what we have done, that is, we have added something like this, that there is someone who is thinking of investing money. He's working for a bank. So we took permission from this bank, the employee of the bank, that he is working in this particular vertical and he's responsible for investing money into different companies. Then how this person is going to make a final call whether he should invest this much amount of money in this bank or not, in the IPO or not. So we have not taken any permission from Shakey's, but we have taken permission from someone who is working in the bank. In fact, one of the case study which we have written is about the finance. We have a lab here in the Philippines in our college, which is about finance lab. So students do their projects. One case study, in fact, we have a protagonist who was our student. And in the finance lab, students are required to, do analysis, that he's doing an analysis and he's thinking that what he should do. So something like this can be done here.
Right. Thank you, sir. The next question is coming from D. Subbarao and asks how to use the case studies for learning by the industry personnel.
Okay, I think whenever you go for case studies for learning by the industry personnel, the first thing which you have to keep in mind is don't go for very long case studies. So in case I'm doing some MDPs, I typically go for Harvard case studies, Harvard Business Review case studies, which are 4 pages, right? And then you get into more discussions. Please keep one thing in mind that they are working. So they may not have enough time to read a case study, a long case study. So it's better to give them smaller case studies which are available. And HBR is a very good source for them. In fact, IB is also having many cases which are short in length. So you can consider those brief cases in that case.
Oh, great. That actually brings me to one of my doubt. Though I'm a host, I would like to take the privilege of asking one question for myself. So can we say that small cases around 4 pages or 5 pages are more palatable than the longer ones?
It's not like this, Gautam. I think there are people who have written 5 pages of the text and then around 2 exhibits. I think it all depends upon the topic itself. So there are topics for which you need to have lots of data. For example, right now I wrote a case study on Netflix, so I have to write something about Wood, MX Player, right? So there are lots of players in the OTT industry in India. Around 30 players are there, right? So this case study was when we finished it, it was around 24 pages. But then I'm aware that it's not going to be accepted by the publishing house if it is so long. So it just got accepted with the IMD Lausanne. So the lead author is also working at IMD Lausanne. So what is happening here? So in this case study, the lead author or what we have done, ultimately from 25 pages, we have come down to around 90 pages, but there are around 7 pages of exhibits. When we're talking about the subscription plans, for this case study, I think I don't think that we can come below 19 pages in this case study. But yes,
Right.
Case study which are written on a restaurant, which is just on 5 pages, and it has quite a good amount of information which is required for the analysis.
Yeah. Thank you. So thank you very much. Here I have a very, very interesting question, and which is asked by Drupa Bhatia. And she asks, Sir, can an HR case study be a combination of real life and hypothetical situation and involve dialogues of the characters?
Yeah, surely. I have done few case studies which are hypothetical. Sometimes, sometimes you have an idea that, okay, something like this is there, and you don't have permission, but you even don't have published sources for that thing. You can surely develop a disguised case study in that case.
Okay. Thank you, sir. The next question is coming from Professor Dr. Anjali Sane, and she asks, generally in macroeconomics, we use secondary data for writing case studies. So what care should be taken while working with secondary data of the country's macroeconomics variables?
I think I'll simply say one thing, that whenever you're writing case study, just make it sure that everything which you're mentioning in a case study is having a proper citation. That's the most important thing which is required. And it has to be contemporary in that case. The data which you're mentioning, it's not like this that you're writing a case study about a company, about the microeconomics variables, but you're going back to the data which you're mentioning. On one hand, you're saying that it is happening in the month of April 2020, and then you're writing about something which is available only in 2016, right? So it will be difficult. So you have to make your data more contemporary. That in case you're talking about GDP or something like that, it has to be available at least till the year 2019 or something.
Yeah, right. Thank you, sir. So next question is coming from Anil Sharma, and before I take the question, I would like to take your permission because we are almost approaching 4 p.m. IST, and gives me a warning bell because that was the entire time given to me. So if you're okay, then only I would like to take a few more questions.
Sure, Gautam, we can take around 10-15 minutes, no issues. I'm happy.
Thank you. So next question is coming from Anil Sharma, and who asks, do we need to take permission of government department before writing a case study on those departments?
I think I have never written a case study on government department, so I don't have an experience, but I can simply say one thing, that anything which you get published, in fact, even the publishing house, in case you're writing something about a government policy, something like that, even if it is not available on different online platforms, even the publishing house will ask you for the veracity of the information. So which has to be, so you have to have it verified with someone if it's not published somewhere.
Yeah, true. So the next question is coming from Dr. Ridhima, and she asks, is having a protagonist a must? Can we not write a case on the real strategies that company had adopted?
So Ridhima, I have just discussed my Amul case study. In the Amul case study, there was no protagonist. So typically the cases which we write on the basis of published sources, there are no protagonists. Because in case you remember, I was talking about that case study. I said that market observers feel that what could be the possible issues faced by the company, what are the possible distribution channel challenges. So in that case, there is no protagonist. And out of my 75 case studies, 20 or 25 must be from published sources, and they don't have any protagonists. So it's not required.
Okay. So the next question is coming from Dr. Avdut Patwardhan, and he asks, how worthy are the case studies based on secondary data altogether?
Avdut, I think when I was showing to you the slide about my journey, the topmost case study is about United Airlines. So I was in the US only when I was at Georgia Tech. So that incidence of one Chinese passenger being forcibly, taken out of the aeroplane happened at that point in time. So I have written that case study on the basis of published sources, and right now it is my most popular case study. I think so it's being downloaded. In fact, the second case study right now is the most popular Amul case study. So both these case studies are from published sources. Before that, my third case study, which is most popular, is from the field research. It's about CRM implementation. I think all depends upon the quality of the case study and the topic. In fact, one of my case study, which gave me a good amount of royalties, about Patanjali. Right, so I was the first author to get an international publication on Patanjali, and that was also a popular case study, again on published sources.
Oh, thank you. The next question is coming from Sushil, and he asks, "Sir, for writing an intriguing and compelling case, how much fiction element can be added? So, how important is author's reputation for?" Okay, so seems to be different questions. So I'll stop at the first one.
Okay, so can you repeat Gautam once again? I just missed it.
So, in simple terms, how much fiction element can be added in a case?
So I think it all depends upon the publishing house. So, so in case you talk about my Harvard Business Review case study, there's no real company in that case, right? So I've taken the names of the people I like, and then we have changed the names of everything, even the name of the company is being changed. So it all depends upon on the publishing place. So for Harvard Business Review, you can have lots of fiction, lots of story which is coming up into the picture. You can see that case study. It's available online. It's having some animation, the caricatures of the people and those type of things. But in case you talk about other good publishing houses, cannot really make a generalized statement without any reference or citation coming to the picture there.
Yeah, right. And he only asks the second question: how important is author's reputation for grabbing the best publishing houses to publish your case, or just a good content would serve the purpose?
I think the first of all, I must say that when I got my first publication with Harvard Business Review or with IB Publishing, I I came from industry background, so I worked in the industry for around 15 years before becoming a teacher. So I got a good handholding. Surely, I appreciate Professor Jayanti Ranjan who is there. So I got a good handholding. But the case study, I think it was my own journey. I was one of the first person in my college to start writing case studies and something like that. So I was surely not having any reputation before that. So I think it was more about content. It was not copyright. It was something new which I was writing. So that's how the things are there. But surely, in case you want to write something with Harvard Business Review, they typically prefer professors who have worked with them earlier, or it is typically by invitation, or they have someone who is working with Harvard Business School. So there are a few things, but they surely look at your publications, but not surely at which place you're working. It doesn't make a difference.
Right. So I think we all can follow your example and don't worry about the reputation before publications. Okay. So the next question is coming from Sadananda Petkar, and he asks, "Can you please differentiate between writing a case and writing an article? So what are the highlighted distinguishing points?"
Okay, so I think you have to keep one thing in mind, that when you're writing an article, you're just writing about a topic and you're getting into it. Case study is more about a company, about an issue faced by the company, and then about the industry, about the consumer in the industry, about other players in that industry. So you have to bring lots of things when you're writing a case study. An article, for that perspective, I think someone asked about that. Can we write something hypothetical or something without on a sector? So surely you can write something on COVID-19 situation and what is the impact of COVID-19 situation on different brands. But in case you're writing about a company, then you have to write that this is a particular company. These are different issues faced by the company because of COVID. These are possible strategies which company can adopt. These are strategies which are followed by other players in the industry or other players somewhere else, not in the industry, but maybe you can go beyond the marketing myopia in that case. So case study has to have different mindset coming into the picture. So that's why I say that it's not a difficult thing to write a case study. It's surely an easy thing to write a case study. Just do one thing, that you read, at least in case you want to write for IB Publishing, read at least 15 to 20 cases of IB Publishing, and then just go ahead. Yes, Gautam.
Yeah. Sorry, I think I lost again the bandwidth in between. I'm really facing serious issues today. Sorry for that. Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes, Gautam.
Um, can you hear me?
Yes, Gautam. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So the next question is coming from Latha Krishnan, and she asks, why doesn't the Society of Case Researchers publish fictional cases if the learning objective are relevant and valid for the learning experience?
I think I just mentioned that in case I talk about case studies, they are more fictional in that case. You just need to take care of the platform which you are using for the publication.
Okay, right. The next question is coming from Dr. Juhi Garg, and she asks, what is the scope of review of literature in a case? How much review should be included?
I don't think you need to have any review of literature in the case study. Surely the review of literature can be part of the teaching note. So when you're writing an answer, so you can simply refer to some theories which are there, right? So that is something which you can surely use in the teaching note. That instructor can refer this particular author, and then you can give the example, right? So, for example, I just wrote a case study about navigating the career choice. So, Amy Gallo is surely one of my favorite author at HBR. So I just gave her reference that okay, according to Amy Gallo's paper, this. So I've given the reference of that particular paper. That's what she is saying. So that's how you can use a such literature review in the teaching note. But surely you cannot. It's not. It cannot be used. I think from my side into the teaching into the case study.
Right. Thank you, sir. So next question is coming from Devang Patel, and he asks, sir, is it always required? Just a second again. So, yeah, sorry. Is it always required that we pick up a large-scale famous company for writing case, or is it also okay to pick up and approach small, unknown local companies for writing cases if the issue of the company has a potential to be explored? So just hold on. I think your role has got changed again, so we can't hear you. Just give me a second. I don't know, somehow.
Pharmaceuticals. Sarva Pharmaceuticals. I don't think anyone in the audience has ever heard about this name. Right. Similarly, when I talked about a company called as Maha Research Lab, on which my Harvard Business Review case study is published. Okay, so even that company was totally, I think, unknown to most of the people. But here, I think most important thing was the content of the case study. So you can show
Okay, right. So
small brand name, but more important is the content coming up there.
right. Okay, just actual case. The next question is coming from Vedashri Mali, and she asks, it is said that working on teaching notes first than actual case will make the case writing effective. Is it true?
Surely, I think in case you get, I typically do the things simultaneously, but there's nothing wrong in starting with a teaching note in mind. But in that case, I think you should have an idea that what are going to be the questions which I'm going to ask my students when I'm discussing this particular case study, and then what is the information which is required to answer those questions. You can have the thing in mind first, and then you can go into the case file that okay, this is how I'm going to prepare my case file. So if you can do like that, it's a good idea.
Okay. So I have few questions left now, and I think I have left just maybe 4 or 5 minutes to even consume the remaining additional 15 minutes extra time. So I would like to go pretty quickly on the questions now. So the next question is coming from Dr. Taranjeet Singh, Vij, and he asks, Mike, is case study writing? Can we do comparison of two companies or brands? Is it advised?
I will not say that you can surely do one thing. That, for example, in case I'm writing the case study of Realme, I'm doing some analysis there. That what are the other companies? Okay, so the TCIL, Samsung, what are strategies being used by these companies? LG, right? So I'm just looking at not doing a comparative thing here. I'm just writing that This is what Samsung is doing it. I'm surely going to take that part maybe in my teaching note, that analyze the different competitors and their strategies. So surely you can do this thing, but this can be part of the teaching note, and not per se coming directly into the case study.
Okay.
I gave
The next question.
I gave example of Netflix case study where I took the 5 major competitors in India. Okay, Hotstar, Prime, right, MX Player, Voot. So in that case, I am having a question in the teaching note, which is about analyze the different players and their strategies.
Okay. The next question is coming from Meenal Painse, and she asks, can you please throw some light on how to write a video case?
Okay. So Meenal, I think going for a video case is quite contemporary. In case you can do that thing, it can be a great idea. I think video case study, you can do something like this, that you can have, I will simply say that a small introduction, and then after a small introduction about the case and the premise, then you simply go to the video that you're actually interviewing the person. That a person is saying to you that our company is doing well. This is what we're thinking of doing. Right now, we're thinking of launching maybe camel milk, and I'm just exploring what can be the possible things which can happen. Okay, and then you're going to the second part when you're talking about industry. So there can be a small information in the file for industry, and then again you're going to a link when you're talking about maybe the advertisements of the company or some other players, or maybe an interview of a doctor who's saying that camel milk is good for health and this and that. Or you can interview a fitness freak talking about camel milk as something which is having low in gluten or something like that, and you can talk like that. So surely I think video case studies nowadays, I think there are some professors who are using it. I'm also thinking of, I'm planning to work on a case study shortly, which is having more videos, so that, but you have to look at the platform which are available. I think for online teaching, having a video case study can be very contemporary. You can do that. So same thing is required, that what is the information required for a case study, but you can surely bring the videos instead of writing that thing. I think you can.
Thank you, sir.
There's a case study on our business publishing. So it is having what happened on that particular day on 26/11 at Taj. There are interviews of the people, and then there's some PDF copies. So it's a good example of a multimedia case study.
Right. Sir, it's almost
Gautam, sir.
somebody is unmuting. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, so the last question I would like to take, because we have almost reached 4:15 p.m. IST. I'm sorry, I lost the question. Just give me a second. Yeah. So the last question is from Jugesh Chandar, who has joined this webinar all the way from Ghaziabad, and asks, Sir, how to ensure that the idea which the company has given and it's not, or the data which company has given is not unduly inflated for their own advantage?
Okay, I think you have to keep one thing in mind. So some of the companies who gave me permission, they were not ready to disclose their actual data. So I have to disguise that data. Now it all depends on the company to company. So this is nothing like going for a different data. It all, in case the company is okay with you mentioning the right data, you can go ahead with that. But there are some companies who say that we don't want to give the right figures, so you might have to disguise the figures. So it all depends on the company.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think we have. I hope I have not stressed you up with so many questions because it's been really long time that you've been talking. And thank you very much. I would like to say at this point of time, thank you very much for joining us and giving us very beautiful insights on this very important topic of case writing. On behalf of MIT World Peace University, I would like to thank you from bottom of my heart and this entire team for giving us such important piece of information. I would like to thank on behalf of entire team of management, Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, Dr. N.T. Rao, Provost Dr. Rajiv Thakur Sir, for kindly accepting our invitation and for being here today. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Also, Gautam, thanks to the people who took time to join this webinar. Especially, I would like to thank some of my teachers who are also attending this webinar, especially Bindu Gupta ma'am, who is there. I could see that she is there in the webinar. So thanks a lot, Gautam. Thanks to Thakur sir, surely, because I joined this webinar because of the invite by Thakur sir. So thanks a lot. It was a good interaction. It was a good learning experience for me also. So thanks a lot. I wish you all good case publications going forward in your life.
Wow, thank you, sir. Just one thing. I got to know that even some of the senior officials from your institutions have also joined. They were there in this webinar.
I could not see the participants, but I'm surely in case my associate dean Jamu was interested to join. My Mela from my college was also interested to join. So I think in case they have joined, so thanks a lot. I am mistaking your names. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much once again from on behalf of entire university and entire team of people here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Same to you, sir. Thank you. Bye bye.